How close are the Mavericks to championship contender status? We'll discuss as we welcome in our special guest, Brian Dameris, live in studio. Coming up next on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer and our special guest on the show today, Mavericks radio color analyst, Brian Dameris. Happy to have you here in the show with us today. How are you?
What's up? I'm entering the lion den. Am I okay here? Are we good?
Well, you're good for now.
You're good for now.
I'm a little bit worried if Stein shows up, which is he just invisible again?
Oh,
or at least
Steiny.
until his buddy Followell shows up. Then we'll see how.
Steiny's got 3 phones and 2 laptops, and he's just,
Steiny heard you're going to be here, and he's like, oh,
Yeah,
no,
he's-
I don't
he's
want any part of
boycotting.
this. Yeah.
He'll be with us a little bit later on in the show, of course. Marc Stein, very busy at this time of the year, but he'll be with us a little bit later on in the show. We've got a lot to get to in today's episode. How close are the Mavericks to championship contender status? What position should Cooper Flagg potentially play if he does, in fact, become, of course, as I say, a Dallas Maverick coming up here in less than 2 weeks? And Game 3 of the NBA Finals last night, where the Indiana Pacers take a 2-1 series lead. We'll get into all of that here on this terrific Thursday. Tim Cato, how are we feeling?
Feeling fantastic. Enjoyed a great basketball game last night, and on we go.
On we go.
I got an interesting thing I thought about actually this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this. Dirk got here, right there's his bobblehead, in 99, right? January 99. 21 years, overlapped that year with Luka. Then we got, 5.5 more years of Luka? A little 2 months break, right? And now we could potentially, because Cooper's not turning 19 till 4 days before Christmas, get 20 years of Cooper. So you're talking about, other than that 2 months, literally almost 50 years
Wow.
of having a generational player on your roster. It's unprecedented. I was trying to think of comps, and the only ones I came up with were Green Bay in their quarterback position.
There you go.
Right? Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, now Jordan Love, who I think is a stud and is going to play
Mhm.
another 10 or 15.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Pittsburgh with their coaching, who they've had 3 coaches, all who won a Super Bowl in the last 50 years. But am I missing something? I mean, Steiny's a historian. He can maybe talk about soccer and Man U during their
Yeah,
run.
I was going to bring up, like, Barcelona has obviously
Yeah.
had, like, but some of that is that, these mega it's not one person, you can go Ronaldinho into, he played alongside Messi. You could kind of do that, but it's not as like the face of the
Right.
club, the organization, the franchise. It is a little bit different when you look at it that way.
I mean, it's kind of like great, like just whatever, it's luck or blessed to have these players to talk about. Yeah, of course, Dirk in the later ends of his career wasn't that guy as much, but you still had him and fans still loved him. Like to have really kind of always have a stud that you can go. I mean, there are a lot of teams, a lot of franchises go to the wilderness for long
Mm-hmm.
periods of time
Yeah.
that don't get what we've been able to get. And we had
Yeah.
2 months of not having it, and it was Armageddon around here.
It was.
Yes.
We'll get into some of that as well. Of course, celebrating the 14-year anniversary of the Dallas Mavericks winning the NBA championship with their 6-game series win over the Miami Heat. Brian Dameris going to have a lot of fantastic nuggets when it comes to that. We'll talk about a little bit later on.
When
in
we
the
make
show.
Stein visible, he will also, I'm sure, have stories to share.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly when he comes in. But let's get
No,
into it because
he's here. He's invisible.
he's in. Okay, that's right. We'll just say he's invisible for now. But let's get into it because we talk about the championship celebration that was 14 years ago. How close are the Mavericks to getting back to championship contender status after reaching the NBA Finals a year ago, missing the playoffs this past season, but at the same time, a bright future, Cooper Flagg, looking forward, coming up here in less than 2 weeks. Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, of course, coming back from his torn ACL. How close are the Mavericks to getting back to that type of championship contender status?
Well, I think when they're fully healthy and Kyrie's at 100%, I mean, I'm putting them right up there. You're talking about a lineup of Kyrie, Flagg, PJ, AD, your two centers. You've got a nice, depth of bench after that. Again, fully healthy, and health is such an important piece. We learned about that the hard way from the Mavs, and you learn about that with these two teams that are in the finals now. They're healthy. The teams that weren't healthy, that had injuries in the playoffs, Boston, teams that went down the wayside, it makes a big difference. Some of that's luck, some of that's how you prep for it. But they've got a 3-year window of going for it. And they should do everything they can, not mortgaging the future, to go win now. Kind of this thread the needle thing, right? Golden State tried to do it, but their picks weren't that great.
The other big deal is that the Warriors didn't have the guy who was coming up who was the guy.
Right. Their guys were the old guys.
If you're doing 2 timelines and your second timeline is a bunch of young guys you hope are good, that's a completely different avenue,
right.
Completely different situation, circumstance than what Dallas is facing, where they have a guy they know is good and they know they can build around before he's even played an NBA game. That is how confident and sure everybody is of Cooper Flagg. That's how good he's going to be. So just completely different circumstance. And we're looking at, Boston, a team that just lost in, the playoffs. They're going to have to go shed salary from what was going into the season the title favorite. The modern NBA and the realities of the cap sheet says that when you have a team that's close, you go for it because you don't know how many chances you're going to get.
Right.
And you don't know
that's the key there is that in an apron world now, there really aren't dynasties anymore. And you don't have runs. Even Oklahoma City is going to pay the piper down the road. Yes, they got a lot of draft picks, but they're going to have to let some of these guys that once they get eligible for contracts go and backfill those guys. And will those backfilled guys be as good? But, you're looking at a team now because, and Daryl Morey said it before the draft, Cooper Flagg's the best asset in the NBA because he's going to be a star. He's going to score 20 points his rookie year, and he's cheap. So you can build the pieces around him, go for it for those 3 years. And then guess what? When you want to rebuild, yes, you're going to have number one starting to backfill back in, coming back in your lineup, coming back in your quiver, and he's 21. You're building around a 21-year-old that now has 3 years in the league whose development is just a hockey stick.
Sure.
So I think they can thread the needle. But when you say your original question, how close are they contending? Look, this year's going to be a transformation year. How quickly does he adjust? What moves are they making? Are they making other moves, or is it just going to be adding that guard for the taxpayer mid-level? That kind of affects things. But if you really look at the West this year, Oklahoma City. Look, I think the Mavs had Oklahoma City's number. The only team to beat them twice over there.
Yeah.
Beat them 3 out of 4 times, all 3 times without Luka. I think Denver's a really tough matchup, but I think we're in Minnesota's head. You look at some of the other teams at the top, I wasn't scared of any of those teams. So, yeah, Oklahoma City is obviously a juggernaut. We'll see how this series ends up. But you're talking about contender? Yes, I think they're a contender right now.
We just watched a awesome Game 3, just awesome basketball. I thought for 48 minutes, like really, really, really high level basketball. In what those two teams are doing, did you see their strengths reflected in the vision that Dallas is trying to build? Or do you see Dallas trying to build a different vision that can compete and be on par with what the Thunder and the Pacers, what their strengths are?
It's interesting, and I think Barkley talked about it a lot post-game after the game last night about what Oklahoma City did. Because the interesting thing is they went small, right? And was that the right move? It was very Avery Johnson, Golden State, 2007, right? Putting Devin George in. And it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of playing to your strengths, you matched up to the other team. And was there a mental aspect to that? The Mavs are trying to do is they're saying, listen, and the league is doing this. Oklahoma City before the finals, Boston, Cleveland, and these teams were all double big. And so the best teams are playing double big. Why? Because you can put one big out. Teams can't match up with it. If you try to double that guy, you're lobbing to the other guy underneath. And defensively, if you pull one out, you've got that insurance policy at the rim, and rim protection is so important. So they're leaning into double big. They're also leaning into length and defense.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to have defense. What you see now is if you have a player who can get exposed on the defensive end, the playoffs, especially the farther you get along, absolutely brutalizes you. It happened to Jalen Brunson and Cat. It's happening to Halliburton. And so that you can't hide those guys anymore. You've got to have all 5 players who can hold their own defensively. And so I think that's a key thing of how they're building this thing out. And, oh, by the way, they still have to be really effective on the offensive end.
Yeah. I mean, weak link theory, there's been a lot of people who have talked about this. Noah Phillips, 5F Substack, I think had a really good piece about it. It's more a, weak link theory is basically like the NBA used to be about you are as good as the best player on the court. You're the best player on the court you can put out there. Yes. That is your ceiling. And now it's more about the floor of your worst player. I think it's a really convincing argument. I don't think it holds up 100%, and I don't think the argument is meant to be doing that. But the NBA, I think, is shifting in some ways to how bad is your worst player, and that's how bad you're going to be. I think on offense, it really stands out. Players that don't have offensive value, I think on defense, if you're a mediocre defender, you can't be bad. But if you're a mediocre defender, there are ways and schemes and ability for teams to kind of work you into their system, make sure to protect you. On the flip side, I thought Tyrese Halliburton had one of the best defensive games I've seen from him. He wasn't great. He wasn't like a good defender. But I thought like last night in Game 3, that was spirited effort from every minute that he was on the court. That really stood out to me. So when you say that all does kind of resonate with what the Mavericks are trying to build, I do still worry a little bit that some of the weak link, if you want to view it that way, just the idea Dallas is not going to have a lot of shooting. The 2 big lineup they look closest to is Mobley Allen, because all of these other pairings of double bigs that you mentioned and absolutely have trended into the NBA over last season. This was a very noticeable trend. At least one of these guys in all these situations was a spacer, brought some level of offensive value that wasn't just rim running. I absolutely have, I think Derek Lively and Anthony Davis on defense, and then you add 2 more, if PJ's still on the team next season, Cooper Flagg. So Anthony Davis and Derek Lively, they're going to be going into next season, or at least looking back at this season, they're the only 2 starters with a wingspan of 7'5". The only team in the entire NBA that has wingspans, like 2 starters with wingspans 7'5" or up. Then they have 2 more players with 7-foot wingspans, and Cooper Flagg and PJ Washington. Like at some point, they might as well just all hold hands, run a little 2-3 zone, and you're covering pretty much every inch of the court.
You saw glimpses of it, obviously, in that half of the Houston game. You saw it in the Sacramento play-in game. When they're on, they're long, no one's getting into the paint. And the issue then becomes on the offensive end. I think what you're seeing in the finals is you saw, look, if the game's close, Indiana has the advantage because OKC is stagnant. It's what the Mavs were in the Luka era. It's one guy, and then if he doesn't have it, he's got to kick out. And they made SGA work on defense so much that he was worn out, and he couldn't really get to his spots. On the flip side, it was pace and space, ball movement, body movement, run. Don't let the defense get set, because that's where Oklahoma City's really good. I think that's where the Mavs offense has to develop in being body movement, getting that thing rolling. They don't have that Luka guy. Kyrie likes to play off the ball. We'll see how Cooper kind of plays in that system. That's going to be the interesting thing is, can they change? Because you're right, they don't just have the pure shooting, but if they can get enough of that ball and body movement, it's not like Indiana shoots lights out from 3 either, right? Sure. But they have enough. They get enough of that easy baskets. Pace. I think pace is really, really important. And you've seen Jay Kidd over the last couple of years, especially since the trade, really just pushing, got to run.
Yeah, and I when I went to look at the numbers, I was worried. I felt I had a preconceived bias. I thought going into it that Anthony Davis was just a slow-paced player, and I thought that the teams around him would be slow-paced because of that. Last season, that was true for the Lakers and then the Mavericks to an extent. Past few years, the Lakers have ran a lot. They've been pretty quick-tempoed. This is, even with an aging LeBron who does kind of pick and choose his spots, they've been able, those Lakers teams in the past had been very fast-paced. I think it's possible. I don't think it's possible that they're going to replicate what the Pacers do in terms of just sheer amount of passing.
No.
Second in the league in passes per
game. You're not going to
outpace
the Pacers.
Yeah, and like the way the Pacers just constantly move the ball, I think that's, we can talk more about Game 3 later on, but I think that's really wearing down the Thunder. But it's all interesting.
Let's take our first break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. When we come back, our guy Marc Stein will be joining us here live in studio, as well as with our guest Brian DeMaris. And we'll talk what positions should Cooper Flagg play and how do the Mavericks go about solving their guard issue. We'll talk about that coming up next here on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
Just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Impart Today can help you get it. Impart Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals, focus on flooring every single day of their lives. We've all been to the big box stores, and you're gonna get lost. You're gonna ask somebody for help with the flooring that you're trying to get for your new home or condo or beach house or skyscraper. And you're going to ask them, okay, what's the best floor? What's the whole deal about this? Are they going to know? Are you sure they weren't doing light bulbs yesterday? You sure that they aren't going to be doing sinks tomorrow? Impart Today lives and breathes flooring, and they're going to be with you every step of the way. It's a whole different ball game. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code DLLS. Yes, you heard that right. A $350 discount with code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Visit ImpartToday/DLLS for full details.
Whether it's watching the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Final, your favorite Major League Baseball team play, watching the game should be easy. You should be able to enjoy it with your favorite Bud Light. It's easy, so you don't have to overthink it. If you're wearing your favorite jersey or your favorite pair of Lucky socks, make sure that when you do, not only you're enjoying the game, but you're enjoying it with a crisp taste of Bud Light. Don't know what to serve your friends? It's easy. Pick up some pizza, get some Bud Light on the way home as well, and be able to stock your fridge and have a good time while you're enjoying your favorite game. It's that easy, just like Bud Light, which is always brewed with 4 simple ingredients for a clean, crisp taste. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. 21 and over. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri. Pleased to be welcomed in studio by our national NBA insider, where you can always dial up the Stein line at the Stein line. He, of course, is our guy, Marc Stein. Marc, what's going on?
Hello, Marc.
2 phones, laptop.
Is that an old school number 2 pencil, too? What you got going on over there?
These are in these times of crisis, in these times of chaos, this is usually when I just stay in the dungeon and work from there and join the show remotely. But I came in for you, Brian DeMaris.
Thank you, Steiny.
So don't make me regret it.
We feel honored.
Don't make me regret it,
Brian DeMaris.
I'm a loyal watcher. I watch on the team bus a lot for the road post games because that's easiest when I can tune you guys in, and I love seeing Steiny over in the corner on his phones shouting out anybody who chats from Norway.
Yes, that's awesome.
Oh, DeMaris is a real fan of the show.
No,
Okay.
Wait, do people see you watching on the bus?
I kind of just put it in the pocket and put the earphones on just so when Kevin goes off, it doesn't shake up the entire bus.
You don't have to lie. I know that the players are crowding around behind you, being like, "Oh, what's this? We gotta
What Corella got to say on the post-game show tonight?
What new take does Bobby have? Did Bobby like my performance?"
Yeah.
Max Christie is like, "Did Bobby like me?"
Oh, Max is. That's
the answer
right.
is all.
The
Bobby, who is just off screen, yells. The answer is always yes.
Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no when it comes to our takes on this show, where we get into some of our frostiest takes that, you and I, maybe Stein doesn't have a lot of takes. But,
look at that.
That's right. That's right.
That is a smooth segue.
That's right. Let's get into, before we get to what position Cooper Flagg plays.
I got a.
You got a Frosty take you want to get off real quick?
This was frigid Frosty take. This was a truly aging badly moment for your guy. I'm sure if you were up early, you noticed this. I'm still not over it. I'm still sick. It's not really a take, but it's just, it's frosty. It's bad. It's cold. It's ice cold. Not even near it. It is the 180-degree opposite of how good a frosty actually is. I get the word that the Mavericks have now formally received permission, a request for permission from the Knicks to speak to Jason Kidd. That request immediately denied. I'm excited to tweet this first, break the news, get Kevin Gray all excited, and somehow the old man tweets Mavericks assistant coach Jason Kidd. How did I do that? That's not a typo. That's just old age.
And you don't have the
No, I did fix it, but it was funny.
Okay.
The great Corellustrator so gently, he saw it 1 nanosecond after I did it, so gently didn't want to come to me and say, hey, dummy, you called Jason Kidd the Mavericks assistant coach. So he just sent me the nicest note. Mark, I hate to be that guy, but I think you accidentally said, Bobby, I got it. Yes.
How many times have I texted you with edits from your old Stein line?
Yeah,
and
I mean,
with
and I need it.
Your
I need it.
grammar.
I'm aging. It is.
I will say that. Can I give my J Kidd opinions here?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, first of all, before you do that, that Frosty take by Marc Stein was brought to you by Wendy's. Wendy's is putting a twist on classic with all new Frosty flavors. Find your new favorite flavor and clock it for a sweet treat time anytime, including midnight or later. A fresh refresh on a classic. Got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location, where you will find Marc Stein delivering his coldest takes.
If it weren't for Kevin, you guys would be all over the road.
You hear that, Corella? You hear that?
Correct.
No, I'm just joking. Just kidding.
So when Steiny did send that tweet out, I was very happy, and here's why. And you guys know this, but and we're seeing this over and over with all these coaches who've been fired with 3 games left to go in the season and 2 weeks to go in the season, and after making the Eastern Conference Finals, what's the number one thing that management looks at in terms of a coach? What are they looking for more than anything?
Locker room buy-in.
Relationships.
Yeah.
And from who?
Front offices. Yeah.
Who are the stars of this team?
Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving.
And who do they want coaching this team?
They want Jason Kidd coaching this team for sure.
And who's going to be a great person for Cooper Flagg? A guy who is top 75 and in the Hall of Fame. You want Jason Kidd to be the coach of your basketball team. And that is, look, I wrote an article in March in D Magazine about, I basically shadowed him for a day from when he got up to when he walked to the bus after the game. And these guys work their butts off. He's at the office right now. You guys talked about it Tuesday. We know who they're going to draft, but they're looking at a bunch of E10 guys. They're looking at a bunch of guys who've been in the league. They're going through all of that. They're trying to put summer rosters together. Heck, they're looking at 1 through 60 on the draft. They may get back in. You never know. They don't want to be Charlotte when they, remember the Justice Winslow trade when they're like, oh, we didn't look at any of the other spots. We weren't prepared, so we didn't take the 4 number ones that Boston was offering us. This team does. And so they're in there working right now. And so you want him to be your coach. Look, when L.A. wants you last year and New York wants you here, why did L.A. want him? Because LeBron likes him from his time there. Mm-hmm. Why does New York want him? Because Brunson likes him from his time here. You got people that want you. You don't look that gift, whatever that thing, that bird in the basket. I don't know what the term is, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Don't look a gift horse
in the mouth.
Kiss a gift pig
with
in
the bird in a basket. Yeah.
So also eggs and bicycles.
Right.
And
all of that wrapped into one. So I think that, listen, the timing was wonky because other teams, obviously Houston had come out. Now we're learning that New York's basically like the guy that got divorced and he's asking all of your buddies' wives out.
Yeah, that's kind of foul.
They've done it like 5 times now.
And they got rejected every time.
Hey, go find some others.
There's some available ones that are out there.
Right.
There's some good ones that are out there.
But I think that this shows Jason's value. Listen, a lot of people had a lot of issues with him over the last whatever, and people can have whatever their opinions are, but you've got a guy who not just the relationships, X's and O's, knows what he's doing, and I think that the love he's been getting from these other teams should show you this is the guy for not only the next 3 years, but then I just think there's a really good fit with what Cooper is as well.
Tanner, is the audio okay, or are people? Are we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tanner says the audio is
all good.
is looks good on our end. It might be a YouTube thing. Relaying from Tanner.
All right. So am I crazy here, Steiny?
No, look, I mean, I already lost track. Someone had a comment in there about, timeouts.
Yeah, come on.
Every coach in the league is going to run afoul of their fan base for various rotational things they do, ways they manage the game. People at home, not just in basketball, in every sport, are going to think they can see it better. They can do it better. That is part of what makes sports intoxicating. And I've said this before. As a Manchester City fan, I will do it with Pep Guardiola. I will see things that Pep does and say, and lose my mind over it. That is what, that is a fundamental aspect of sports watching for all of us with the teams that we love. But it's like, it blows me away that so many great players want to play for Jason Kidd, and that is so rarely discussed. It's not just Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. Again, for all the talk about Milwaukee, how does Giannis Antetokounmpo feel about Jason Kidd 10 years later?
Well,
ask him.
You see him after the games hugging him and talking.
Yeah.
Ask him.
Players are constantly
So
wanting
it's
to
like,
talk to Kidd for sure.
There are a lot of elements to coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and man, this is hard. But I'm gonna now publicly agree with Brian Dameris, which he knows I don't love to do. I stole this formula from a league GM 10 years ago, and I flat out stole it from him. But I've been touting it as mine ever since. The most important thing for an NBA coach will always be the players. The talent on the roster is always going to be the number one determining factor. But number two is player buy-in. And third is X and O genius, what we perceive to be, like all the talk about Rick Carlisle and what an amazing string puller he is and all of the knowledge and tricks of the trade that he brings to the table. Of course, it's important, and it's helped Indiana take a 2-1 lead in these finals, but 1 and 2 are more important. And he has player buy-in in Indiana. He has Tyrese Halliburton's buy-in in Indiana. That's one of the reasons why it's working so well. But 1 and 2 still supersede 3. No matter how much coaching genius you have to have 1 and 2 to succeed in the NBA.
Did the Mavericks quit on Jason Kidd over the last 3 months?
Yeah, no,
not at all.
And I had a former coach tell me to my face, this team should have won 25 games after everything that happened. When you're running out 8 guys, 3 of them are G Leaguers, he said that's a 25-win team. And they would compete. There was maybe the second half of the Houston game in Houston late in the season, late in March when they lost by 30. Maybe one other game where you're like, okay, the effort wasn't there. I remember that second half was right after Exum got hurt at halftime. And they're like, really again?
Yeah.
That's it. Those were the time. And maybe the Clippers games where you're like, okay, that was where those were maybe the 2.5 games that I said they're not competing.
Yeah. I think when it comes to Kidd, the largest criticism that I can offer to him is in some ways a backhanded compliment to him, Tanner. It's the David's comment from a second ago. He mentioned, no, you're good. But he basically mentioned that there were times that it felt like a few seasons ago, 22, 23, where he seemed to this is David's comment. My biggest issue with Kidd was during the 22-23 season when he seemed to purportedly wreck the rotation just to prove a point. That being said, the roster was flawed. Again, to prove a point, I don't know that exactly, but there are times when I watch the Mavericks and I watch the Kidd coach Mavericks, and I think, I've seen you coach this team, sometimes even this roster in the middle of the season. I've seen you get more out of them. I've seen you be more creative when it comes to end-of-game stuff, rather than just running Spencer Dinwiddie into the ground, things like that. Like I said, in some ways, there is a level of back-end compliment to that in the sense that he does get a lot. He can get a lot out of a team that I think has flaws. So if that's the thing that sticks with me most often when I think, when I think of criticism, but that's a small criticism or it's it's not as massive as just you're out of your level. The locker room doesn't like you. I agree. Those are the more important things. Tactically, you don't know what you're doing. Those are much bigger issues. Those are much bigger things to focus on. And consistently, when Kidd is coaching this team to its best and when it looks the best coached under him, that's those things aren't a enormous issue for me. Also, just the idea that he can also get change out of stars, something I think that we saw over the years with Luka. All of those things absolutely lead me to believe that Jason Kidd is a good coach.
Let's take our next break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. When we come back, more on what Cooper Flagg could potentially look like. Also, let's get into some championship memories from the Mavs title run from 14 years ago. All that and more coming up next here on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
You all know that moment. The one where you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach or on the roof of your car or at a gas station 3 states away. Maybe you left them in the office and they just disappeared. Kevin, I'm looking at you.
Why are you looking at me?
I saw you wearing a pair of Shady Rays that looked awfully suspicious.
They were mine, just to be clear.
But then I found Shady Rays and it changed my life. Shady Rays are sunglasses made for real life. They're seriously good looking, they're polarized, they're durable, and they're not stupidly expensive. And here's the wild part. If you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. There's no guilt trip, just replacements. So now I actually wear my sunglasses without fear. On hikes, at concerts, on the boat, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
And when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you should also smell good as well. And that's where Mando comes in. Mando is a men's deodorant brand that has hyper-focus on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean.
Ooh, I need that.
Well,
just you wait.
You came to the right place.
You don't even know what's coming next.
They've got scents geared toward men with options like bourbon leather, Cloverwoods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport as well. Especially, you know what? When you stink, it's all over the place. It's your balls, your butt cracks, your grundles. That's right.
Yep.
That's right, Craig Ludwig. It's all of that. And we want you to make sure that you smell good. And you can do that with Mando. Obviously, with Mando, you can have a whole body deodorant. It's safe to use anywhere on your body. Created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. When it comes to Mando, we've got a starter pack for you that is perfect for our new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant and cream tube as well deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping along with it. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. It equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code DLLS at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Support our show and tell them where you sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
Holler at me, Mando. Need you.
Bobby's probably got a starter pack for you laying around somewhere he could take care of you with at the end of the show. We appreciate our guest, Mavericks radio color analyst Brian Dameris, hanging out with us here. Also, the host of that Take That With You podcast, Mark Followell, and our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, live in studio with us here as well. We're less than 2 weeks away from the NBA draft, where the Mavericks presumably are going to take Duke sensation Cooper Flagg with the #1 overall pick. In fact, Cooper Flagg's going to be making his way to Dallas coming up here in about 5 days or so with his official visit.
Scooped by Steinlein.
That's right. Do we have more, real quick, Stein, on what that visit could potentially look like as we get closer?
No,
It doesn't
you know
involve
what?
Brian
And
Dameris.
I actually promised you guys that, and I have been engaged on so many other fronts that I have not chased that down. So I apologize.
Are you leading the welcome designation? Designation?
No,
Brian?
Delegation.
Delegation.
Me? No, I got nothing to do with it.
You know, you're not taking him out to barbecue.
I'm trying to get the Mavs players to go Greek dancing like Dak Prescott did.
Okay.
There's a lot of – what do those – obviously, as someone who's been in player development, when a pick comes in, a potential pick comes in, what does that potentially look like for a player when he comes in?
Well, this is going to be different than most.
Sure.
So obviously, everything changed after the lottery. So they were already had scheduled all these workouts for guys that were going to be in that kind of 10 to 15 spot.
Sure.
And those are actual workouts, and they go through workouts, they go through interviews. If they have time, they have a meal and kind of something, But this is different. So this is like, okay, all those are canceled. We're scheduling E10 guys, Summer League guys, 2-ways, G Leagues, and then we got one guy. Cooper doesn't have to work out. This is a let's talk about what our vision is, what you like to do, where you think your strengths and weaknesses are.
They actually used to let you in those?
I used to pick him up. I remember driving Jason Capono to the airport. Yeah, it was
Jason Kaponovich?
Oh yeah. No, it's nonstop. So yeah, they have interviews. And it's a much bigger thing. When I was there, the basketball operations was 12 people. Now there's 85 people over there, and they've got sports psychologists. They got all these specialists, and people who work out with them as opposed to having 1-on-0 drills. And sometimes you have two guys at the same time and they battle against each other. But this one's obviously is different. This is more just, here's who we are. Here's some of our vision and thought process. Where's your head at? What are you comfortable with? That's kind of what I'm envisioning. I mean, they're not going to have him putting up. There's no point, right?
Obviously, for the Mavericks, big next couple of weeks coming up for them as they get ready to welcome in Cooper Flagg next week for his official visit. The Mavericks are hoping that Cooper Flagg can help them lead to another championship. 14 years ago today, Dirk Nowitzki and his Dallas Mavericks won their first ever NBA championship in Miami in 6 games, as Dirk Nowitzki, of course, was the finals MVP that year. And Mark Cuban and the Mavericks celebrated with their first ever championship on that floor 14 years ago.
Top 3 night in your life, Dameris?
Oh, without question. I had remember the $100,000 bottle of champagne? I had about 10,000 worth.
Walk me through what that day was like for you. Obviously, for the team getting prepared to play that game, but just the emotions of that day leading up to obviously culminating and winning a championship that night.
So you have to understand that was a really old team that no one had ever won. And I remember really, Mark Follow and I both were kind of like, this is the chance. Like, this is kind of, you're going to rue the day if you don't make this happen. And obviously, you had 2 shots at it. If you rewind to 2006, Miami came into Dallas with the same thing, where they had 2 chances to win one. And Pat Riley famously said, 1 suit, 1 shirt, 1 tie. That's what we picked. That's what we prepared for. And so the Mavs had that same mentality. 1 suit, 1 shirt, 1 tie, even though they were up 3-2 going into that game. And so there was a lot of nervous energy going in. And remember, Dallas was not favored. This was the first year of the Heatles. And it was, we can look back and say, oh, it was a great team, but no one really believed it. First round of that playoff series, everybody picked Portland to beat Dallas. And obviously it was that big Brandon Roy game that said, here we go again back in there. So, to get that win and just the release of all that and the joy, and obviously having the relationship Steiny and I had with Dirk to just know all of the effort, having been in Germany with him in August of 2007, I think it was, and seeing all the energy that he put into it and all the work and everything that, every disappointment after every playoff series and literally saying to me, quote, another year of my prime down the drain, to see that for him and what it was for him and his family and everybody else. That's kind of the release that we had that night. And what's funny is I was not working for the team at the time. I was just a fan. And so I was up in the stands and they have all these, stand-ups and press things going on the court. And Mark was doing interviews and he looked up and he saw me. He kind of gave me one of these. And so I didn't have a credential and I just walked in the locker room with him. and he was very superstitious because of the parade drama. And so he's like, well, what do we do now? We got to go somewhere and celebrate, because the team was always scheduled to stay over.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, Live is a great club, and it was at the hotel I was staying at, which was not the team hotel. And he's like, that's it. That's where we're going. So that was all the plan, basic. And we literally took the team bus and drove to the side door of Live. And I remember Dirk turning to me and going, they're going to boo us? I'm like, these are all tourists. They're going to be fine. And they opened the doors and the place absolutely exploded. And that was the night till 6 a.m.
Stein, what do you remember from that night, that day?
Honestly, I felt so much pressure. I felt like I had to write the best story of my life. And I felt like not that Dirk would have cared 1 ounce. I don't even know if he read it, but I was just like, I've covered this guy's whole career. They conquered the mountaintop. Brian Windhurst to this day laughs at me, and this is going to go way inside journalism. Cato will love this story. Like I said, I put so much pressure on myself. I guess I should have been ready for the Mavs to win and finish the series there, because like Brian said, that was their whole approach. We're going to wear black. We're not, what it was. We're packing 1 suit. We're finishing this tonight. So their whole mindset was finish this. But I guess I
Well, you have a black cloud always over your head.
No. So like I should have been way more ready to write this definitive. I was not. And so when the game ends, like ESPN had kind of switched up the plan on me, and they're like, we need your stuff like right now. And so like I wrote them, I don't know, like 10, 12 paragraphs and sent it in as what we call running. But like this was too big of a story for running. And like Windhorst couldn't like this was already like, because after the game, I got to do all the reporting, like especially seeing Dirk and talking to Dirk after he's finally won a championship. So it's like a couple hours of reporting, maybe not a couple hours, but at least an hour plus after the game. Then I wrote like 10, 12 paragraphs, sent it in, and I told Windhorst, I just filed my running, and he just started laughing at me because I've always been a terribly slow writer anyway. So he's just laughing that I'm not further down the road. While these guys are at Live all night long, I wrote till the sunlight. I finally filed the real, final, decent version that I could live with myself. When I walked out of that arena, it was American Airlines Arena back then.
Yes.
It was bright sunlight by the time I finished.
I had more fun than he did.
Yeah, so it's like I was in that building.
I'm gonna go kick it and live.
I was in that building
hard work,
all night long trying to write something decent, and but that's my selfish. The memory that will stick with me forever is finally getting to Dirk after and just seeing the purest joy and relief on his face of a day that I'm sure, even up 3-2, even as the seconds were ticking down, that he wondered, would this day ever come? And then, of course, the story that everybody knows that's been written about and covered about, Dirk climbing the scores table to get off the court so he didn't want to cry in front of the world, and just to go in the shower and cry. And Scott Tomlin, the Mavs, longtime, huge part of their PR department for 2 decades. He is now, working daily with Dirk.
Love you, Scooter.
In doing everything for the Dirk Nowitzki Foundation. Scott Tomlin and Tim Frank from the NBA had to go in the locker room and tell Dirk, you got to get out here, man, and get your trophy. Scooter and Tim.
You got to understand, this is a guy who, when he won the MVP, thought he let the city down because it was after the Golden State loss. Like, that's the mentality that he had.
Yeah.
You had an MVP-like season. You absolutely did not let the city or the franchise down, but that's his mindset. And that's what drove him every summer to improve his game. And you got to realize, in 11 and in 6, he didn't have those left-handed runners that he used twice in Game 2 and in Game, I think, 4, was it?
With a hurt finger, too.
Yeah, like he didn't have that in his repertoire.
I've always
added that.
I've always thought that was really poetic because Dirk was the guy who always had the soft label.
Right.
He was a European.
Remember the sniffling, and
He had carried that label for a long time, and the most defining shot of his entire career was a left-handed layup. So not only is he driving to the basket, something he got criticized for, not only is he laying it up with a hurt hand, something he also got criticized, for being soft and all this stuff. And, even back to 2003 when, certainly some people thought he should have played, even though the right decision, of course, in retrospect, was that he sat out of that 2003 Western Conference Finals. I just thought there was so much poetic about that. And then just the clutchness, something that I think, I don't know how much he was ever criticized for not being clutch. Maybe early on, certainly as time went on, that faded. But yeah, I just thought, not only is that his most defining shot, but all the narratives of his career are kind of, packed into that moment and then shattered. And just they all fell apart in that moment.
And you're, as Rick Carlisle said, you're a made man at that point. And so they have this room in the back where they take pictures with the trophy and the MVP trophy. And Bill Russell was there sitting on a chair. And of course, I had already had a couple beers in the locker room. So I decided it's time for me to walk up to Bill Russell and say, only 10 more till he catches you. And he just kind of was basically, he laughed, and that he made it clear that was enough out of me.
The conversation between you and Bill.
It was time
Russell
for me to move on.
Let's take our final break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. When we come back, how the Mavericks not only get ready for Flagg, but also let's take a look back at Game 3 of the NBA Finals from last night, where the Indiana Pacers take a 2-1 series lead, and Rick Carlisle now 2 wins away from his second NBA championship. All that and more coming next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast. But it's Die Hard time here on the show. We want you to become part of our DLLS Sports family. The easiest way you could do it is to like, comment, and subscribe here at DLLS Sports, but also becoming a Die Hard member, going to alldlls.com, clicking that Die Hard tab, and becoming a member of our family here. You get 20% off our events. We've got our member-only Discord. You can get access to tremendous content from our guy Tim Cato covering the Dallas Mavericks, Clarence Hill Jr. and Joseph Hoyt covering the Dallas Cowboys, Sean Shapiro and Sam Nessler covering your Dallas Stars, our guy Jeff Wilson, who's watching the game right now upstairs, covering all things for the Texas Rangers. You get all access to tremendous content when it comes to alldlls.com and become a diehard. You also get your free t-shirt as well and get some dope merch when you become part of our family. Marc Stein's going to pull out his physical diehard card and show that
it's
to
out
you.
of reach.
Oh, come on, Stein. You come on the show. You got to bring the physical diehard card. When you do, you get that. When you get that diehard card, you can show off to folks how you're part of the DLLS Sports. Oh, there it is. There it is. That beautiful gold, vibranium, titanium physical diehard card.
It's a diehard card.
Get one of those.
You don't have a diehard card?
I barely got a shirt.
Oh, we got to hook you up. We got shirts. Well, we got a lot of stuff on our merchandise site as well. allcitynetwork.com. You can shop our tremendous merchandise there. But yeah, we'll hook you up with a shirt. We can't hook you up with the hat. The hat is exclusive to Stein.
Hat is a one of one.
Yeah, it's a one of one.
Insider's edition.
Yeah.
One of one.
But you know what you can do, Brian? You can hang out with us in Vegas, November 15th through the 18th. You can hang out with Clarence Hill. You can hang out with Joseph Hoyt, Jeff Kavanaugh, and also Jesse Holly. November 15th through the 18th, where it's our DLLS road trip. The Dallas Cowboys visiting the Las Vegas Raiders on Monday Night Football, and you can hang out in Sin City with our guys during that particular weekend. We might get Stein to come out there to Vegas with us as well during that weekend.
Stein gets after at the club.
Oh, we need to hear more about that. AllDLLS.com. Become a diehard member today right here for DLLS Sports. Really appreciate our guest, Mavericks radio color analyst Brian Dameris.
Don't forget, I'm still on
That's
Mavs
right.
Center Court.
That's right.
Pre and
Mavs
post
Center
game,
Court.
so like 20 times a year. And then D Magazine writer, I've got a great Cooper Flagg article coming out the week of the draft.
Looking forward to that. Having fun with Devin Harris and Dana Larson, of course. We will definitely get Dana on the show. Someone in the chat was like, we want to get Dana on the show.
Yes, let's get Dana on the show. Let's get
sure.
Dana on the show, and then she and I could just tell Dameris stories for like 2 segments.
We've already, I guess, now that we've had Devin Harris on already. We've had Brian Dameris. So I guess it is time to have Dana Larson.
Followell.
She's the best.
And we've had Mark Followell on the show.
Yeah, Dana's the best one of the group. So
she's the best and most long-suffering of the group.
We'll get some stories from her when she comes on the show. Andrew with the $1.99 super chat. Jason Kidquell, I'm not playing. I'm just watching, just like you guys.
Well, we appreciate you watching, Andrew.
We appreciate you watching. Thank you so much, Andrew.
And super chatting.
That's right, and super chatting. As we finish up here on the show today, going through some of the memories, of course, of the Mavericks winning the NBA championship 14 years ago. Dirk Nowitzki, of course, finals MVP, the franchise's first ever championship. Looking at some get back there here in the very near future. The coach of that Mavericks championship team is now 2 wins away from winning his second NBA championship after the Pacers last night got a big first half from Benedict Mathurin and also a big second half from Tyrese Halliburton. And they are up 2-1 on the Oklahoma City
Thunder. Are they actually going to do this?
Well, I mean, my Frosty cold take from, earlier in the show was the fact that I picked OKC to win the series in 5, and that is now blown out the window after the Pacers won last night. But Rick Carlisle,
that's bad. Not as bad as tweeting that Jason Kidd is an assistant coach, but that was bad.
See, but you can edit that like you did.
No, man.
I can't edit that because it's already now 3 games of the series.
I'm telling you, I had editing function on the tweet, and like I said,
I'll tell you this.
More than 24 hours later, I don't feel much better.
The winner of game,
You're still first.
The winner of game 4 wins the series. That's basically it.
Okay.
And it's going to be tough. I think that if they continue to pick up Shea, pressure him, wear him out, somebody else over there has got to step up. I'm looking at you, Jalen Williams. And are they going to switch and go back to a 2-big lineup? They've played the 2-big lineup for 10 minutes. They're a +7 in that time. Obviously, extremely small sample size. I know why they went small, to have that, keep everybody in front of them, switchability. Those are the things that I'm looking at going forward.
I think they're going to win game 4. I think
The Pacers or the Thunder?
The Pacers.
Okay.
I think what the Pacers are doing to the Thunder is that they are outrunning them, and they are wearing them out. I thought that the Thunder look exhausted.
But
they look
they
exhausted.
had 2 days off.
No,
like why is the youngest team in the league exhausted?
But that's why game 4. That's why I feel so good about the Pacers in game 4, because there's only one game between this.
And this is the only time in the whole series that there's only one game. This is the LeBron rule. Now, every time you switch a city, you add a day. Remember when Cleveland was playing Golden State and they were going back and forth? They didn't want to do that anymore.
Why do they look tired, Marc Stein? This is why. They are a team that we know this is the best defense in the NBA, a historically great defense in the regular season. This is a team that harries and wears you out. This is a team that wants to hunt the ball. They want to hunt in packs. They want to jump passing lanes. The Pacers are the team that have that average in the regular season the second most passes in the entire NBA. I think that the Pacers it's not just the tempo. It's not just that they're running up and down the court. I do think that the Pacers, this is one of the best conditioned teams in the entire NBA.
All true, everything you've said.
But I think all the offensive action, I think all the passes, I think all of that, all the randomness, there's no time to think. They are playing OKC's frantic, aggressive, over-aggressive on purpose, because they can often pull it off, over-aggressive style against them. And I think that's what we're starting to see, especially in the fourth quarter.
Well, look, Mark Daigneault essentially said that without as much detail when he said the Pacers play unlike anybody else in the league, and it's been hard for us to adjust to that. But the Thunder are the youngest and deepest team in the league.
And they haven't been here before.
No, and that is a huge thing, because Caruso is the only player that the Thunder really rely on with any finals experience, and that was the bubble. It's not like the Pacers had a ton either, and really only Siakam in terms of a really pivotal member of their rotation who had finals experience. But I mean,
the Pacers so far through the first 3 games plus 27 in the fourth quarter.
And to your point, Carlisle has finals experience, and that's he is.
Has he outcoached Daigneault so far in the first 3 games?
Yes, they have the coaching advantage.
Easily,
They have the clutch advantage. When they're playing wild ass, they're a better offensive team. They're not a better defensive team, but if their offense can become their defense by that, and then make them pull out of the bowl and walk it up, then they can play defense in the half court. I do want to do this since we're running out of time. Talk about Cooper and where he is best fitting.
Sure.
Because we talked about this a little bit before we got on air.
Do you like, by the way, that the guest
I'll just
he's
take
got
the wheel.
rundown.
I'll take the wheel.
He's not just the guest.
It's on our rundown.
You had showed up on time.
Just set your iPad down. He'll.
It's cool. That's what we was going to talk
We started
about.
at noon, not 12:15. So here's the deal. I think it was you or Bobby was saying he's a 4. I think on this team, he's obviously not a 4 because AD wants to play the 4. Is he a 4 in the NBA? I think he's probably better as a 3.
He's a 3-4. There's no doubt he's a 3-4. Which is he best suited for?
I talked to Brian Scalabrine. Brian Scalabrine discovered him when he was 14 on SiriusXM when I was saying. I just basically took over the wheel again and asked him a question. It's like, where is he? Is a 3-4? He's like, he's actually a 1-2-3. He's a ball handler. And I think that on this team, if PJ Washington's on your roster, it's actually a 2. Now, his shooting's got to improve, and I think it will. We saw in the last 2 months of the season, he was shooting over 40% from deep. And again, as an 18-year-old, he's only going to get better. But if PJ's on your roster, I'm starting and I'm going to play him at the 2. Tell me I'm wrong.
That is a massive lineup. You got Cooper at the 2, PJ at the 3, interchange. Obviously, Anthony Davis, who wants to play the 4 still, either Gafford or Lively at the 5 position. That is a big lineup.
So my concern, we also talked about this for just a second.
Now, there are also plenty of time when you're playing Brandon Williams and Kyrie or X guard you bring in along, that he's going to play the 3. But I think that you're closing or starting maybe with him, and I think he can play that really effectively.
Dallas averaged 27 threes, by far the fewest in the NBA after Kyrie got hurt.
Obviously because of what your roster was.
Of course. Does Cooper alone change that? So my question is going to be, what type of creator do they need at the 1? There were a bunch of games they played with Anthony Davis and Derek Lively and PJ Washington, all healthy. Najee was starting, but you had the core. You had your core backcourt out there. Cooper changes this dynamic a lot. He is a creator. He can create stuff. He's just a really smart basketball mind.
He's a really good passer.
He's a really good passer. Is he going to create advantages from the jump? Can he create advantages as a 2? If you put, I would be interested. Like if you put him out there as a 2, and then you got PJ, Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, what you might be doing is instead of being like, we want teams to guard Cooper with a 4 because we think he's just quicker, we think he's got better foot speed, you can't really keep up with him. We're saying we have so many big bodies on the court that like you don't know who to guard. But it is a situation where it's like, I think if he's playing the 2, he's going to get asked to post up a lot. Like, does he have that in his bag? Is that a situation where you can get advantages for? Also, if Cooper is posting up, because if he's playing the 2, you know, like you're just running out of tall guys. You're going to have a lot of 6'5", 6'6" guys trying to guard him. Is Cooper a better option in the post to initiate offense over Anthony Davis? Obviously, I bet they could get away with some like, you know, high-low stuff. You know, the NBA, that's not the core of an NBA offense at this point. All of this does still revolve around who is the 1 replacement, because they're going to be missing Kyrie for 50 games.
The one's a traffic cop.
But like, what
months.
type of creator are you looking for that situation? Like, I'm not asking you to name names, but you know, what type of person do you think? What skill set do you need?
I need somebody who can organize the offense. You know, listen. You went off about Spencer Dinwiddie. I saw that. Like, the reason Spencer
Brian
Dinwiddie
Dameris is a real stand watcher of the show. I appreciate it.
I don't remember which
Spencer-
episode you're
appreciate
referring
that for
to
that.
because I think I've done that like 5 times.
Yeah,
I know exactly what Mo
Bobby
was.
has done it like twice as much.
I
as
know
me.
it was.
But I know
it-
what he's referring
I
to.
know which game.
I
he's
know which
referring
game he's
to.
referring to.
And the reason that Spencer Dinwiddie was in there is that he organizes the offense. He puts everybody in the right position. He knows how to get the plays run, the sets going, where somebody needs to be, get the ball in. And you need that role on a team. You saw this team when he wasn't as effective later in the season. You're just playing one-on-one, try to isolate somebody and drive to the basket. That's what their offense was. So you need somebody who can organize the offense. They don't have to be a huge scorer. They just need to be able to get from point A to B and get to Cooper Flagg can run the ball and create himself and be a point forward. Najee Marshall, we know, can do that.
The knife.
AD obviously can be a hub, and you can play that kind of big up top, you know, Chicago action and all that.
I just think I don't think Cooper alone. We saw this last season. We saw we saw it with Spencer last season. I think they're going to have a better player than Spencer next season. I think they're going to go get somebody who should be a better option. But last season they had bottom 10 offenses. You know, look at you know, you can look at the time period where, you know, Kyrie was available, but you know, everybody else was injured. You can look at the time period where after Kyrie had got hurt and the big minutes started coming back. I just don't know if there's, even with Cooper coming in, you know, especially early on, it's, you know, Cooper at the end of the year might be a totally player, like might be 20% better than Cooper to start the year, because that is the type of linear growth and development that that's the type of path he's on. And that's the most exciting thing about him. You know, there's a billion exciting things, but the most exciting thing is that his development and growth curve has been absurd, and he's still 18. It's only going to keep getting better.
Yeah.
I'm just still not convinced that what we saw last regular season, when they really struggled creating threes, when they, you know, really struggled scoring points over and over again. If you spend 50, 60 games playing with that type of offense because you're just waiting for Kyrie to come back, my concern, and this has been my concern on the show, said a lot, you know, it's just that you're going to be too far behind to catch back up when you do have a healthy Kyrie, who I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about Kyrie.
Yeah, but here's the deal. You just need to get in the dance. And I think we've shown that you don't have to be the 1 or the 2 seed to get there. You need to win one game and you take home court back. They just get in the dance, be top 6, and as Kyrie ramps up, and then you just want to be playing your best basketball. Look, the team with the second best record from January 1 on were the Indiana Pacers. They started horrendously. That's where you want to be. You want to be, you know, look at the trend lines, not the headlines. Get in that right direction, get that momentum going, have everything going, so by the time All-Star break runs around, you know what your team is and you start running in that direction. Will there be holes? Will there be some shooting issues going forward? Yes. Can that defense help out there so that you're not having to score 120 points as much? Yes.
Brian, tell the folks where they can find you and where they can find your work these days.
At B. Dameris on all the socials. D Magazine, I have that article coming out. Take that with you. We'll continue to do pods throughout the summer, probably 1 or 2 a month. We interviewed assistant GM Matt Riccardi. We've got some good stuff planned. We'll do a big summer recap in the middle of July once some of these moves we're talking about's gone on. I'll be on the draft coverage on draft night. on the Mavs YouTube channel, and I'll be on radio and TV again next season.
Looking forward to all your terrific coverage throughout the course of the entire season and this offseason. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
I think I'll probably jump on in October, maybe do a little season preview action with my boy Steiny.
We'd love to have you.
We'll love to have you.
If we let him back.
That'll do it for us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Appreciate it. I got Tanner making us look good and sound good as always. Thank you, sir. That is our national NBA insider, Marc Stein. That is our special guest, Brian Dameris. That is our Mavs beat writer, Tim Cato. My name is Kevin Gray. Bobby will be back tomorrow, boys and girls. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 12 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports. Y'all be good. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.